Alright guys, so today we are going to divide polynomials. The first thing we're going to do is just do some simple ones. So we're going to divide polynomial by a monomial. Remember, a monomial is just like one term. Polynomial is multiple terms, so maybe 1 or 2 or 3, just depending on what they give you. Okay, so the first example, there's a polynomial of 3 terms divided by a monomial. Now, this is the exact same thing as, let's say we were doing 2y equals 5x minus 8. We're solving for y. I divide by 2. I divide everything by 2. Okay, it's the same thing here. I'm going to divide the 5x squared by each piece. All right, now you don't have to write it out, every single one of them, but some of you might need that visual representation. So I'm going to write it out just this one time. Oops. Okay, so what I did is I took that 5x squared, I put it under each term of the numerator, and then I'm just going to simplify. So this becomes 3x to the, think about what I do with these exponents. I'm dividing, so I subtract. So 3x to the third plus 10 divided by 5 is 2. X cubed over x squared, think about those exponents, becomes x to the first minus 5 divided by 5 is 1. X squared over x squared is also 1, so I'm just going to leave it as 1. And you don't have to write this power right here. And that's it. Dividing by a monomial, that easy. Let's do one more like that. Make sure you write that down correctly. Okay, so let's divide each one. 16 divided by 2 is 8. A to the 8th over a to the 3rd would be a to the 5th. Next one, negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. A to the 6th over a to the 3rd, a to the 3rd. 8 over 2 is 4. A to the 5th over a to the 3rd is a to the 2nd. And then the last term, negative 3 over 2, that doesn't reduce, so we'll leave it like that. A squared over a to the 3rd. Now, if you need to, go ahead and subtract that. That gives you a to the first, negative, which means it's going to move to the denominator. So it's actually going to move down there with the 2. And perfectly fine, you can do that. Okay, the second thing we're going to do, and this is the longer part, we're going to divide a polynomial by a binomial. Now, there's 2 different ways to do this. So today we're going to do long division. So long division we're going to use when x has a coefficient other than 1. Okay, so tomorrow we'll do synthetic division, which is I would say easier, but you can't always use synthetic division because if x has a coefficient other than 1, so what I mean by that is like 2x minus 3. The coefficient to x is not 1. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is let's just review basic long division, because if you don't remember basic long division, sometimes it's hard to then move to a long division with polynomials. So let's look at something like this. 527 divided by 3. So back to when you first learned long division with no calculators. We say, how many times does 3 go into 5? Well, that would be once. 1 times 3 is 3. So a couple things there. I take this number and I multiply it with this number out front, and I write it underneath. Now, think about what you do here. What do I do with the 5 and the 3? We subtract them. That would give us 2. Okay, this is key, this subtraction sign. We're going to use that. After I subtract, I bring down the next number. We're going to do the same thing with our long division. Okay, then I do it again. And actually, I'm going to do some different colors here because that's hard to see. I say, how many times does 3 go into 22? That would be 7. And I multiply again. 7 times 3 is 21. What do I do here? We subtract. 22 minus 21 is 1. Bring down the next number. Now I do the same thing. How many times does 3 go into 17? That would be 5. I multiply again. 5 times 3 is 15. Again, I subtract. 17 minus 15 is 2. Here's my remainder. Okay, so then I say 175, and I'm going to write it how we're going to write it today, plus that remainder of 2 over the 3. Now, we would also might say 175 and 2/3, but because we're talking about polynomials today, we're gonna put plus in the middle like this. Okay, so it's whatever your leftovers are divided by this out here. Okay, so let's do one. Okay, and you make sure you pay attention here. If you need it to be paused or rewind, then just ask. Okay, so number 1, we're going to do 15x squared plus 8x minus 12 divided by 3x plus 1. Okay, so the 3x plus 1 goes outside. And the trinomial, this one right here, goes inside the box. Or under the house, whatever you think about, whatever you call it. Now, over here, we looked at the 3, and we said, well, how does the 3 go into the 5, or how many times? Okay, similar situation. I'm going to say the 3x into the 15x squared. Okay, now the thing about this is we only are always going to look here at this first term when I'm saying, how do I get from here to here? All right, so you're saying, what do I multiply this by to get 15x squared? Or you can think of it like this, 15x squared divided by 3x. Well, if I simplify that, that would be 5x. So if I'm going to put 5x right here on top. Now, keep everything lined up nice and neat here. So look, here's my x squared, here's x and x. I'm going to keep it all lined up perfectly. Okay, so don't be sloppy about this. Okay, so then I'm going to multiply 5x times the 3x, which is 15x squared. If this does not match right here, something is wrong. Okay, because this should cancel. I'm also going to multiply the 5x by the 1. So that becomes plus 5x. Now, go back here for a second. Let me go back to this one. Once you multiply 1 times 3, and I put the 3 there, this is the big part. We subtract. Okay? But in our case, we are subtracting the whole thing. So a negative gets distributed. So what I do is I do this. I subtract and I circle it. This was positive. It's going to change to a negative and I circle it. Okay? That way I know I've changed it. But essentially what you're doing is you're subtracting this binomial so it gets distributed. The negative gets distributed. Okay, so let's subtract. So these are gone. I have 8x minus 5x, which is 3x. Just like on the regular long division, I bring down the negative 12. Okay, and I do it again. I say, what times 3x gives me 3x? Again, if you cannot come up with it, do your division. 3x divided by 3x is 1. So up here, I put plus 1. Okay, notice, all of my x's are lined up. All of my numbers are lined up. Now, I multiply again. I do the positive 1 times the 3x is 3x. Positive 1 times positive 1 is positive 1. Okay, again, a negative gets distributed. I like to change it with my pen and circle it. So subtract, subtract. So the 3x goes away. I get negative 12 minus 1 is negative 13. And I'm done. That's my remainder. So how do we write it? We write 5x plus 1. This is a negative, so I'll put minus, and I do 13 divided by 3x plus 1. That's it. Okay, let's do another one. Two x cubed minus 5x squared plus 22x plus 51 times 2x plus 3 to the negative 1 power. A little bit of a tricky start here. Okay, now the negative 1 power just moves it to the bottom, remember? So this really is divided by 2x plus 3. So let's go ahead and divide this, set it up. 2x plus 3, and then inside the house, 2x cubed, oh man, minus 5x squared plus 22x plus 51. Okay, so I start here. I only worry about the first term right now. How do I get from 2x to 2x cubed? If you have to divide, divide. 2x cubed divided by 2x is x squared. So I put x squared right here. Okay, and we multiply. X squared times 2x is 2x cubed. X squared times 3 is 3x squared. So I subtract here, and I subtract here. So those go away. I get negative 8x squared. Bring down the next term. And I do it again. What times 2x gives me negative 8x squared? So negative 8x squared divided by 2x is negative 4x. So I put negative 4x. Multiply again. Negative 4x times 2x is negative 8x squared. And negative 4x times 3 is negative 12x. Change your signs. So I'm subtracting a negative, that becomes a positive. And this one also becomes a positive. So I get 34x. Bring down the 51. Do it again. What times 2x is 34x? If you need to divide over here, go ahead and divide. It doesn't hurt anything. That would be 17. So I put plus 17. And I'm going to multiply. 17 times 2x is positive 34x. 17 times positive 3, positive 51. Change my sign, so this becomes minus, this becomes minus, and I get a remainder of 0. So it divided evenly. So in this case, our answer is just x squared minus 4x plus 17. Okay, let's do another one. 8x to the third minus 4x squared minus 9 divided by 2x minus 3. Okay, so before we even start, look at this right here. I have x cubed, x squared, and then the number. It skips a term right here. Okay, so make yourself a note. If a variable is missing, you must hold the place in division. Okay, so basically we need a placeholder. So we have 2x minus 3 on the outside, and on the inside we have 8x to the third minus 4x squared, and I'm going to put a placeholder in of plus 0x, and then minus 9. All right, so let's divide. 2x into 8x cubed would be 4x squared. Multiply. 4x squared times 2x is 8x to the third. And then 4x squared times negative 3 is negative 12x squared. So distribute that negative, so subtract and add. 8x squared, and I bring down the 0x, that placeholder. Okay, we do it again. What times 2x gives me 8x squared? I need a positive 4x. So 4x times 2x would be 8x squared, and 4x times negative 3 would be negative 12x. So subtract and add. 0x plus 12x is 12x. Bring down the negative 9. Let's do it one more time. What times 2x gives me 12x? That would be positive 6. 6 times 2x is 12x. And 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. So subtract and add, and I get 9. So our answer is 4x squared plus 4x plus 6 plus 9 right here divided by 2x minus 3. Okay, we're going to do one more that's not so pretty. So 6x to the third minus 3x squared minus 7 divided by 3x minus 2. Okay, so 3x minus 2 on the outside. And inside I'm going to put 6x to the third minus 3x squared. Oh, and it skips that x again, so I'm going to put a placeholder, minus 7. All right, so what times 3x gives me 6x cubed? That would be 2x squared. So I multiply. 2x squared by 3x would be 6x to the third. And 2x squared by negative 2, negative 4x squared. So I have negative, oops, let me use my pens, negative, positive. So this becomes x squared, bring down the next term, 0x. Now I say, well, what times 3x gives me 1x squared? Well, that's ugly because it doesn't go in nicely. So here's what we're looking for. We already know to get from x to x squared, I need an x. So I'm going to put the x up here. But how do I need to see, well, what do I multiply 3 by to get the coefficient of 1? Well, if you solve for x, you would get x equals 1/3. So that's what goes up here, a positive 1/3. And when you multiply, you should be able to verify that. 1/3 times 3 is 1, and then x times x is x squared. Then I have 1/3 times negative 2. Well, that's not pretty. Negative 2/3 x. Change your sign, so subtract and add. Now I have 2/3 x, bring down the minus 7. So now I have to say, well, what times 3x gives me 2/3 x? So do it again. What times 3 gives you 2/3? Well, if I divide by 3, I would flip and multiply times 1/3. And so I get 2/9. So I'd say positive 2/9. So now let's multiply. 2/9 times 3. We know that's 2/3 x. And then 2/9 times negative 2 will be negative 4/9. I know you're all loving these fractions right now. So subtract and add. So if you combine negative 7 with positive 4/9, you get negative 59/9. Oh, that's pretty. So pretty. Oops, sorry. So let's write our answer out. We have 2x squared plus 1/3 x plus 2/9 minus 59/9. And then normally this just goes on the bottom, so I'm just going to put it next to the 9 because it can stay on the bottom with that. So there is my final answer. Okay, so you have a worksheet that you can work on. Make sure that you try those problems for tomorrow because we're going to start with that, see if I can answer any questions on it.